are you doing this Independence Day? Have you already managed to plan a grand getaway, or are you busy stocking up your bar before you hit the 15th? It's been 66 years since India won its freedom from the British, and while on the surface, India might pay due tribute to the 15th of August, as the day the Indian nation was born, it is fast becoming clear that Independence Day today is more a ritual than a celebration. For the average Indian, the 15th of August signifies a very welcome midweek break, nothing remotely related to actually celebrating this landmark date. Nikhil Sivadas draws parallels between the 15th of August and the 4th of July. For the uninitiated, it's the day the United States celebrates its independence, and tells you why our Independence Day is fast losing its relevance.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
Fateful words uttered by India's first Prime Minister, capturing the essence of optimism and patriotic fervour that young India woke up to on its first Independence Day. However, 66 years on, the 15th of August has become just another holiday, filled with government-sanctioned pageantry, irrelevant and insignificant to most of India.
Happy 4th of July, filled with parades and cookouts, fireworks, and family reunions.
A sharp contrast from how democracy's big brother, the United States of America, celebrates the 4th of July, a holiday that is celebrated with a lot more vigor and enthusiasm, be it community-based events such as picnics and barbecues, festive floats, or setting off of fireworks. All opportunities for Americans to proudly wear their patriotism on their sleeves. A celebration that is not forced but invited, as opposed to us Indians who today simply conform to the age-old rituals of flag hoisting and parades. One can safely say 15th of August for Indians today is as uninspiring as it gets.
The significance of these days has eroded. I would think that the number of people who would be tuning in to watch the Prime Minister's speech, from Bedford would be minuscule. I mean, understandably perhaps, given, the kind of speeches that do come out at a time like that. But there has been a clear decline when it comes specifically to this aspect of engaging in national events of this kind, as against what it used to be.
Ceremonies just need to be updated. It's like doing an old play through an old script. I don't think disinvesting ourselves of ceremoniality is necessarily a good thing, but I think updating the ceremony is a very good idea. There may be something to be said for drawing the new generation in by eliciting their participation. I think in America as well, it's a culture of deep informality, but also of a very profound formality.
An Independence Day that has become more an obligation and forced patriotism than a celebration of national pride. A danger that India can no longer ignore. Even if one goes to the hypothesis that the younger generation that makes up the majority of the population is at least 4 to 5 generations removed from the events of the freedom struggles, the fact that they don't pride themselves on being Indian or are far from being inspired by India's achievements is signal enough. And making Independence Day a ceremonial event rather than one designed to be awe-inspiring and inclusive only further disenchants them.
Indians are proud. Why do you think younger people rallied around Anna Hazare? Because they felt they needed the vitality of the national movement. There's a desperate need. There's a nostalgia for the nation in the original sense of struggle, of idealism. That is missing. A bureaucracy standing in front and giving the most boring speeches and acting as if they're doing you a favor attending a patriotic ceremony cannot be the basis of patriotism. And I think the bureaucratization of this festival has been disastrous. A bureaucracy is incapable of drama. And the bureaucratization of the Indian festival has alienated a new generation. They want speed, they want drama, and a bureaucracy is incapable of providing both. You can't put a Manmohan on top and about 20 boring Congress leaders or bureaucrats and expect to revive a festival. They can't revive a parent-teachers meeting.
That's not to say that the younger generation is not already disenchanted. A major factor for that is the lack of an Indian ideal or identity that we Indians can pursue. For generations, America has branded itself as the land of opportunity, simply by building on the promise of the pursuit of happiness and the American dream.
To live up to the words of that Declaration of Independence and secure liberty and opportunity for our own children and for future generations.
Those are seductive offerings that have turned America into the destination of choice for immigrants through the years.
Yes, of course, the opportunities are here. Academic opportunities are, infinite here. It's amazing what you have access to here. Absolutely, those people who are reaching for it, there is definitely something to reach.
India, on the other hand, is still struggling to fit into the tag of an emerging superpower, grappling with a slowing economy, a foreign policy that seems designed to please everyone, and a government that seems more apologetic than assertive, and a Prime Minister who barely anyone has heard. Even Obama has had a freewheeling session with India's Gen X, but the Indian PM remains reluctant, reclusive, and someone who the younger generation feels far removed from. Little wonder then that we Indians seem to have precious little to celebrate during Independence Day.
They may have got independence from foreign occupation, but the countries themselves are not free. Many people do not enjoy the freedoms that they should be able to enjoy in an independent country. Many things that you do in India, applying for licenses, getting passport, etc., you get the feeling that the government suspects you of being a liar or suspects you of being a thief. The government's approach to its own citizens is that these are a bunch of immoral people who will try to break the law all the time. So we need to have all kinds of checks on our own citizens.
In times of crisis, people look to their leaders for inspiration. While America can still proudly parade leaders from their recent past, India has no option but to cling to past glories. From their founding fathers to great presidents like Abraham Lincoln, Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, and more recently, Barack Obama. America has always had great statesmen who have been able to propagate America as a brand that stands for success, righteousness, and the spirit of perseverance. Meanwhile, India seems to have run through its galaxy of great statesmen during its fight for independence, leaving the nation with only squabbling leaders who seem more interested in their own fame and fortune than that of the country.
India went through a glut of leaders in the 40s and the 50s. If you look at the greatness of our leaders there, from Abdul Ghaffar Khan to Maulana Azad to Sardar Patel to Rajaji to Nehru, there was a surplus of leaders. The Americans couldn't match it. All they could talk about was the Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But today, the Americans have been able to project their leadership in a different way. Each presidential leader sounds decisive, sounds focused, sounds as if he is emblematic of the unity of America. India doesn't have leaders. Today there is no leadership. In fact, there is a drift. We seem to think that we can hand over our country to experts because leaders have failed to lead. Look at the prospect of leadership. Rahul Gandhi, who would drive Hamlet crazy, a Sonia Gandhi, a Manmohan Singh, who is a wall of silence, Narendra Modi, whom people are split about. You can't create symbolic unity. A leader has to be a statement of symbolic unity. And there, India has failed.
You start to feel, surely this can't be politics. How do we reform it? How do we put the heart back in it? And I'm with you. I think the time has come to reform the political, to put energy and life into it.
All of which means that the relevance of the once glorious 15th of August is diminishing with every passing year. While we are not by any stretch suggesting that India needs to ape the US, we definitely need to do something to make sure that the 15th of August is not just an excuse for a long getaway or stocking up your bar considering that's a dry day.
Instead, what we need to do is to reinvent Independence Day to make it truly appealing, engaging and awe-inspiring to every Indian.